Hello, I'm Diane Ebanks. I'm the Head of Equality for PCS. I want to talk to you today about an issue that's been raised with us as part of a campaign that we are launching called Work Without Fear. So some questions that the team and I have had around sexual harassment, and this is focusing particularly on harassment of black women. So it has two elements to it, and it's known as misogynoir. So you will have heard of misogyny. Misogynoir is the phrase that is now being used. So how would I describe this? You're a woman, and as a woman you can be subject to sexual harassment and degrading comments, touching, inappropriate behaviour of all kinds. But as a black woman, you also have the same elements, but your race, your ethnicity, the colour of your skin, everything about your being is brought into it. So it's intersectional. It focuses on your sex and it focuses on your racial or ethnic or cultural identity and brings the two together. And it's pernicious, and sometimes we don't even recognise it. So this week, just want to talk about what misogynoir looks like, how it presents itself, and things that we need to think about. So I've got some questions that the team have prepared for me. First one says, how does misogynoir differ from general misogyny or racism? So misogyny is usually applied in the context of men and how they treat women. Usually it's a hatred, a dislike or a prejudice for no other reason than because you are a woman, because of your sex. And it can be disrespectful, it can be, they talk to you with contempt and disdain, and it has no boundaries in terms of who can be affected. It's got nothing to do with your social standing, your class, or money that you earn. It is because you're a woman. Added to that, the element of your race, your cultural identity, your ethnicity, and the colour of your skin. And it is a dual disrespect. It is dual harassment. So racism can be experienced by men as well as women based on your identity. And if you look like me, you walk around and everyone can see that I'm a black woman by the colour of my skin. I can never leave my black identity anywhere. It is always with me. And if someone then comes for me because of the racism, because of the colour of my skin, or what they perceive to be my cultural identity, I can never leave that. And if they come for me because of the fact that I'm a woman, I can't leave that. I walk as an intersexual woman. I am a black woman, and I can never leave those identities behind. And sometimes it's the smallest things that happen. So quite often it's to do with, particularly Afro-Caribbean, it's to do with our hair, our natural hair, the texture, the curl pattern, the thickness, the way that it waves, the different hairstyles that we as black women choose to wear. And this confidence that not only can you ask questions, which is okay, but that you can put your hand in my hair or my child's hair and play and then comment on its frizziness or its thickness or whatever in a way that I couldn't do with other people and their children. Or on our physical being and how we're built. Quite often we talk about our breasts, our bottoms, our thighs, our hips, our lips, and then the comment goes on to what they'd like to do to us. It's like they have a little fantasy playing in their head, and somehow they feel entitled to share that personal fantasy, as if it's okay for us to hear it, as if we're happy to hear it, as if it makes us feel good. It's things like black beauty, exotic, and sometimes animalistic. I bet you're an animal in bed, I bet you go like. Why? Why do you feel entitled to say that? Why do you think I'd want to hear that? And how do you think I'd receive that? Would I be comfortable with it? Would I welcome it? The answer to both of those is no. So that's what misogynoir looks like and can feel like. Interesting question. How do you think misogynoir affects black women's mental health? Well, there's two things we have to take into account. As women, young girls, as we grow up, we face sexism. We're taught how to defend ourselves in the world, walk around with keys ready and things to protect ourselves should we be attacked. As a young black girl, and then as a black woman, we also have the double impact of the way that we look, our black and brown skin, our hair, our identity, our cultural identity and how we carry. So both of those are impacted. We know that more than half of women of all ethnicities and races have experienced some form of sexual harassment. And we know that women have heard sexual comments about themselves in the workplace and about other women, and have been subjected to sexual comments in nature about their bodies and the way that they look. That little touch on the knee or the small of your back. In most cases, but not all, the perpetrator is a male colleague, someone you work with. Sometimes it might be a customer that comes into your workplace and you're dealing with them, a third party. It can often be a line manager or someone with power and authority. So there's an imbalance in the power of authority. And if you take all of those aggressions, and some are small, some are microaggressions, some are more overt, and they build up over time, you then see women experiencing stress, anxiety, PTSD. It affects their mental well-being, affects their emotional well-being. It can also affect physical well-being. Mental health isn't just mental, it's emotional, it's psychological, it's physical. And over a period of time, it could happen really quickly or it could develop. You will see those symptoms coming out. And it affects what happens in the workplace. It affects who we are, our whole person and our whole being, the way that we talk, the way that we hold ourselves, what we dress, what we look like, all these things we have to think about to be ready for the next attack that comes our way. So it's not just one thing. And quite often we have to recognise that black women, we're quite often the only one or one of a few in that space. So we can be the only woman in a male-dominated sector, but we can also be the only black woman or one of a small number of women and happen to be black in that space as well. So it makes for an uncomfortable experience, and uncomfortable is a kind word because sometimes for some women it is really horrific, and some women have shared some experiences, and as we go through these series we will be the voice of those women who have come forward and shared those experiences with us. Oh, there's a question. In what ways do stereotypes contribute to misogynoir? For example, the angry black woman. That's a big question for me and many other black women. I have actually been called an angry black woman. Women are called angry when they stand up and speak out and hold their space and defend whatever it is or present an argument. We're known as angry, we're known as aggressive, whereas men are assertive and they're direct and they're forceful. The language used for men and women is very different. Add in your blackness to that, and then we have the angry black woman. You're very loud for an angry black woman. The way that you speak, your accent, I don't know what it is that you're saying, you're always shouting, you're emotional. All of this is directed at all women, but the colour, the race is then added on for black women. And it takes time to understand that. And for me, and I'll share with you an experience, I have worked out that I have made myself less than. I have made myself smaller, I have made myself quieter. I used to sit on a screen, now they're all online, and sit sort of lean into one side, and made myself physically smaller so that other people around me felt comfortable. But I noticed that other people didn't make the same concessions for me. And I had to work through that. I had a life coach and I was working through that. I've got good friends, I've got family, and we talk about these things. So I'll now sit here and I will sit up straight and I will take up the screen, because it is my right to take up the screen and to take up space. Not just because I'm a black woman, because I'm a woman, I'm a human being, and I deserve as much space as the men who are quite happy to sit with their arms wide and their legs wide. You know, when you're on the bus and the train and the tube and you've got to make yourself smaller because they have to be as wide, and that stance, and we all do that. But sometimes it's harder when you add colour to it. I've also had comments about, you know, how loud I am and my laugh is too loud. And I hear other people laughing and people laugh along with them and they don't get the same comments. I'm not sure, and those times I never had the confidence to confront people and say, why is it? Why are you treating me differently? but it's something you learn over time and as confidence grows. So I have made a conscious decision to not be lesser than and softer than, because I have the right to take up the space and I have the right to be heard. Ooh. What gives you hope in the fight against misogynoir? I think the very fact that we're talking about it, the fact that we're having a conversation, the fact that we're airing our experiences and having them being heard. We're not looking for them to be validated by anyone other than ourselves. We don't need to be validated. We know what we experience as women and as black women. We know what happens to us. We know what happens to us in the workplace or outside or in the home. You don't need to validate it, but you need to hear it, you need to understand it, and you need to accept it. So I think the fact that we are talking about it, the TUC, a great colleague of mine, Carol Ferguson, spearheaded some survey and research work on misogynoir in the workplace for the TUC. At the recent TUC Black Workers Conference, there were several motions. One of them was on misogynoir. I was attending that conference and was absolutely heartened when all the attendees, male, female, LGBT+, however people identify themselves, but they were all black, voted for that motion to go to TUC Congress to be debated. And it's a way that recognises that it is a real experience, that we need to be heard and that it needs to be addressed. And the strengthening of the sexual harassment legislation, the Workers' Protection Act that came into force in October last year talks about sexual harassment and employers taking reasonable steps. We hope that under the Employment Rights Bill, this will be strengthened to all reasonable steps. And we cannot forget that when we're looking at this, race is an element that is experienced by black women. It's singular and it's unique to us. And the last question I've been asked is, what advice would you give to young black women? I'd say don't be silent. You have a right to work without fear. You have a right to go in the workplace and be free from sexual harassment, from discrimination, from racism, from stereotyping, from sexual comments, from misogynoir. Support each other as sisters. When your sister doesn't have a voice, you be her voice. And when she has found her voice, you stand with her and walk alongside her. And that's mostly to the women, but also men. We need you to be our allies as well and to be a force that supports us when we raise these issues. So young black women, find your voice, be able to speak without fear, know that your sisters are there with you, whatever their backgrounds, and know that many of our brothers in the trade union movement are also with us. And when we can stand by ourselves, and when we can stand together and fully be ourselves without any fear, then we have an equitable workplace.